Yesterday, the state brought in a few witnesses in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, one of which was Richie McGinnis, who is a friend of the Timcast IRL show. We know him, we love him. And I got to say, after watching what happened yesterday, if this trial is not already over, if the jury hasn't already figured this out, I would be shocked. The state's own witnesses have stated that Rosenbaum said to them and their group, including Kyle Rittenhouse, "If I catch you tonight, I will kill you." A new report shows that Kyle Rittenhouse was yelling friendly as he was being chased. More evidence came out in trial about the gunshot being fired before Rittenhouse turned around. And we have this story from Legal Insurrection: train wreck. Rittenhouse prosecution implodes with state witness Richard McGinnis of the Daily Caller. This is not supposed to be how the direct examination of your own witness is done, my friends. It is clear. We all knew this. I interviewed Richie. We had him on Timcast IRL with several other people who broke down exactly what happened that night with Kyle Rittenhouse. Clear-cut case of self-defense. You want to criticize him? By all means, maybe he shouldn't have gone out there with that weapon. You want to criticize him and say he broke the law by having the weapon in the first place? That is a charge he is facing. But when it comes to the death of these three individuals, as tragic and awful as it is, I know a lot of people like posting memes and laughing about it. I don't like celebrating death. I don't care who it is. This is crazy. It was self-defense. I mean, they even they're arguing. They're like, well, it's clear that, this Huber guy hit Rittenhouse with a skateboard. Like, it's not even being contested that he was lying on the ground and a dude ran up and hit him with the skateboard and then tried grabbing the weapon. You had the individuals in question saying, according to this, I got to stress this point. The state brought in a witness, not the defense. The state did, saying this guy is going to prove our case. And then the witness was like, the man threatened to kill Kyle Rittenhouse. Like, what? We didn't even know that. When we've been talking about this throughout the past year, we watched the videos. And even, I love shouting you out, Destiny. Destiny, a leftist commentator, said it was the clearest cut case of self-defense he had ever seen. Now we're learning that Rittenhouse was yelling friendly, and a guy chasing him had already threatened to end his life. I don't understand what we're still doing here. Now, here's what gets crazier. The judge actually stopped proceedings to rag on the media. The media knows. Okay, so these people are Democrat activists. They hate Kyle Rittenhouse. They will not accept that they're wrong about this. And they know they're wrong. But they can't say it publicly. So the only thing they can do is criticize the judge. The judge gets pissed and starts saying, what are these people talking about? We're doing everything right here. To the point where 2 jurors have now been dismissed. This, my friends, I cannot believe is even going to trial. I think most of you said it from the get-go. How could this even be criminally prosecuted? We've all seen endless amounts of videos about this. And now here we go. Well, I can't fault the state for trying. It's their job. But part of me thinks the prosecutors, are actually just giving up. Actually, it seems more like they're trying as hard as they can, but they know they have no case. Now, questions still remain. Will the jury stand up based on what they're seeing and say, it's self-defense? Clearly. Now, Kyle Rittenhouse may still get in trouble on that gun charge. That's it. And there may be reckless endangerment. I'm not convinced he walks away, but I'll tell you this. I thought for a while that Rittenhouse was going to get life because I thought the jury would bend over backwards, terrified of the mob. But now it's winter. There's no riots. So we'll see. It's starting to look like Rittenhouse is going to walk. He might get a slap on the wrist conviction of something. But in the end, if the jury feels like this young Kyle Rittenhouse had to be out there or was justified in being out there during the riots because he wanted to protect his community, this kid's not going to get in trouble. Let's just jump to these stories. I got to give a shout out to Andrew Bronca. This is all his legal analysis and breakdowns, and he does a fantastic job. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com, become a member to help support all of the work we do here at timcast.com for the past week. Timcast IRL has been on hiatus, which really, really hurts us. But thanks to the fact that you guys are members of the website, we don't got to worry about anything. And the show's going to be back Monday like normal. Everybody is, I'm happy to say, everybody has tested. Well, okay, that's not true. Everybody at the castle has tested negative. We'll see what ends up happening on Monday, but we should be able to just resume like normal. And we got a big announcement. I won't say too much, but Austin, we will be there soon. So become a member at timcast.com, smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Let's get started with this first blip, this little blip from Legal Insurrection. Train wreck. Rittenhouse prosecution implodes with state witness Richard McGinnis of the Daily Caller. I know Richie. I was watching Richie and I'm like, yeah, you go Richie, because I know him personally. And I just want him to go up there. I want him to tell the truth, right? He came on our show. He told us exactly what went down. He should tell them exactly what went down. And he did. And the defense wasn't too happy. The prosecution wasn't too happy. But check this out. Branca writes, I believe this is Andrew Branca. I'll cover all of this in greater detail later. But couldn't resist getting this out to you promptly. The direct questioning of state witness, he emphasizes state, by ADA Binger was an absolute train wreck for the prosecution. And of course, the jury watched it all happen in real time. To provide some context, for more than 12 minutes, ADA Binger tried to get McGinnis to testify that Rosenbaum was already falling to the ground when Rittenhouse began shooting him. In other words, that Rittenhouse simply executed Rosenbaum by shooting him in the back when he was helplessly falling. The actual exchange is in the video, so you can watch for yourself, but a reasonable paraphrase would go something like this. Binger: so Rittenhouse shot Rosenbaum in the back as he was falling, correct? McGinnis: no. Rittenhouse didn't fire until Rosenbaum charged and lunged at him. Binger, the ADA: so he shot him as he was falling. McGinnis: no, not falling, lunging. So you're saying he shot him while he was falling? No, that's not my testimony. Lunging. This is not how it's supposed to be done, folks. He then says he's going to get the full analysis up, but we got the full analysis. Look at this. Rittenhouse trial, day 3. State's own witness damage prosecution, reinforce self-defense narrative. I was watching this happen live, and my jaw hits the desk when he was like, this is crazy. He's like, Rosenbaum says, if I catch you, I will kill you. And then the prosecutor is like, but he didn't say, he said it to you, not to Kyle Rittenhouse. And then the dude, Ryan Balch, goes, Rittenhouse was standing right there. He said it to all of us. Like, you mean to tell me the prosecution's own witness, they knew this. They knew the guy threatened the life of Kyle Rittenhouse. They knew all of that. And they still went forward with charges. This is a sham. Check this out from Legal Insurrection. He says, welcome to today's Law of Self-Defense ongoing coverage of the Rittenhouse trial. This is Andrew Branca, who is writing. He writes, this third day of trial was perhaps the worst yet for ADA Thomas Binger's efforts to have Kyle Rittenhouse convicted and sentenced to life in prison for having shot 3 men, 2 fatally. He says, in Kenosha, after Jacob Blake writes, he says, that's really saying something because it's not like the prosecution outperformed in the first 2 days of the trial. Indeed, coming into today, the state had yet to present any evidence that was substantively inconsistent with Kyle's legal defense of self-defense. None. This is the crazy thing. The prosecutor is bringing in witnesses that are effectively helping Kyle Rittenhouse. It's almost like the prosecutor is tossing this. It's on purpose. Let's not ignore that possibility. The detective investigating had been on the force for less than 2 years before he was given the highest profile case of their department. And now the prosecutor is bringing in witnesses that are hurting the prosecution's case. I think they know it's wrong to bring these charges against Kyle Rittenhouse. And I think there's a strong possibility they're throwing this on purpose. He writes, today was even worse. 2 of the state's own witnesses, and arguably their star witness, with the greatest immediate personal knowledge of the events surrounding the shootings, journalist Richard McGinnis, we call him Richie, who was filming and interviewing Kyle that night, and former Army infantryman Ryan Balch, who was also armed with Kyle that night, provided lengthy testimony that not only failed to assist the state's efforts to attack Kyle's claim of self-defense, their testimony substantively strengthened that claim of self-defense. Oh, man. We got a juror dismissed. Juror number 7 dismissed for offensive Jacob Blake joke. I'm not going to read the joke. We're going to move on. But this, I think, goes to show the judge is taking this seriously and being fair. There were the defense was trying to get the gun charge, the reckless endangerment charge looked at, saying that if Kyle was acting in self-defense, there's no reckless endangerment. And the judge was like, that's for the jury to decide. The judge isn't just letting Kyle walk on this one. I'm sure the left will claim that because they're going to lose. And they probably know they're going to lose. Here we go. How state witnesses testify in a trial of legal merit. Andrew says, before I dive into the individual testimony of state witness Richie McGinnis, a videographer for the Daily Caller, and Ryan Balch, he says it's worth reminding ourselves what the testimony ought to have looked like had this been a normal criminal prosecution based on actual legal merit. As two state witnesses, not defense witnesses, both McGinnis and Balch would be expected to provide testimony that contributed to the prosecution's narrative of guilt and undermine the defendant's legal defenses. In this case, that largely boils down to attacking and destroying Kyle's legal defense of self-defense, at least with respect to all the felony use of force and reckless endangerment charges in the case. Kyle Rittenhouse is presumed innocent, and that means that his shooting of the three men and the reasonableness of his conduct otherwise, the night of August 25th, is presumed to be justified as lawful self-defense, unless the state can disprove self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, the prosecution doesn't have to disprove Kyle's claim of self-defense in its entirety. The prosecution merely needs to disprove any one of the four elements that make up the claim of self-defense. These four elements are cumulative, meaning every one of the four is required. So if even a single one is disproven beyond a reasonable doubt, Kyle's legal justification of self-defense collapses entirely. To those who are new to the self-defense law, or would like a quick refresh on the concepts of the elements of self-defense, here are the four elements. Innocence. The state might attempt to prove that it was Kyle who was the initial unlawful aggressor in any of the confrontations he was in that night. Imminence. The state might attempt to prove that the attacks Kyle was defending himself against were neither actually in progress or immediately about to occur. Proportionality. Number 3. The state might attempt to prove the attacks on Kyle did not present as apparently deadly force in nature, readily capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. Reasonableness. The state might attempt to prove either that Kyle lacked a genuine belief in the need to act in self-defense, or that his belief was irrational and not objectively reasonable under the circumstances. And of course, whichever element or elements the state sought to target in its attacks on Kyle's claim of self-defense, it would need to disprove beyond any reasonable doubt. This is necessarily the mission of Assistant DA Binger in the prosecution of Kyle Rittenhouse, and how that mission would be accomplished. And it needs to be accomplished during the state's presentation of evidence. Obviously, after the state has rested and the defense gets its turn, it's not as if the attack by the defense is going to make the state's narrative stronger. So as I listen to the state present its witness and subject them to direct examination or questioning, what I am looking for is the building out of that narrative of guilt, the destruction of self-defense, the substantive attack on one or more of those elements. What is this testimony, this line of argument, attacking exactly? Innocence, imminence, proportionality, or reasonableness? That's what really matters. Any testimony or argument that doesn't have one of those elements as its targets, that does not substantively undermine and disprove one of those elements beyond a reasonable doubt, is nothing but wasted effort and time. This is good, my friends. You ready? What I saw over the first 2 days of this trial was a bunch of testimony that contributed nothing substantively to degrading any of those four elements, and thus nothing to disprove Kyle Rittenhouse's claim of self-defense. There was simply no substantive evidence that undermined any of those four elements of Kyle's self-defense claim. What I saw from the state's witness today, however, was far worse. Not only did their testimony, the testimony which is supposed to be the building blocks for the destruction of the claim of self-defense, not undermine Kyle's self-defense, much of today's testimony actually strengthened Kyle's claim of self-defense. And perhaps even worse, ADA Binger's attempts to badger the witness testimony into something that might, in one of the wildest imaginings, resemble a tool to bludgeon self-defense, resulted only in him appearing intellectually desperate, and in his witness becoming visibly resistant to his badgering. In the case of Balch in particular, ADA Binger was even brought to the extremity of suggesting to the jury that Balch, Binger's own witness, whom Binger himself had to call to the stand to testify, was nothing more than a petty liar. Oh, man. This is crazy. State witness Richard McGinnis resists hostile badgering. Check this out. Richie is a videographer who works in support of the Daily Caller news organization. We all know Richie. You've seen him on Timcast IRL. In fact, one of our most viewed videos on IRL is the witness testimony of Richie McGinnis. And we asked him what he thought, and he said, look, I'll tell you exactly what happened, but I'm not going to give you my opinions. Okay, that video's got over 1 million views. So we know we respect Richie. He's not here for political reasons. Here's what he says. This is his profession. And he has frequently over the years engaged in his craft in the midst of violent protests. That's Richie. This was precisely what McGinnis was doing in Kenosha on the night of August 25th, having flown in town for the purpose of, documenting. As it happened, also captured by McGinnis was Ryan Balch, the second star state witness, who was working alongside Kyle. Much of McGinnis's testimony centered around video he had made while following Kyle and Balch around Kenosha that night. Also important was McGinnis' presence in close proximity to Kyle when Rosenbaum launched his ill-fated attack on the 17-year-old. Richie was right there. After the shots were fired, Richie rendered aid to this man. Because of the importance of the McGinnis video of Kyle and Balch, it was played repeatedly and at length by ADA Binger. But to what purpose, I could not imagine, because it did nothing to further the state's core mission of disproving self-defense. Repeatedly, we see Kyle walking down the street alongside Balch, with neither man presenting in a threatening manner in the slightest. To the contrary, they are each continually calling out to see if others, whether their own colleagues or protesters alike, are in need of medical attention. Amazing. At one point, a protester screams at Rittenhouse, "F you." Kyle's response, "I love you too, ma'am." When Balch recounted this event from the witness stand, someone in the courtroom actually laughed out loud. I can't believe it. I think Kyle might walk. I think Kyle Rittenhouse might walk. This is nuts. At one point in the McGinnis video, we see Kyle and Balch encounter a group of punk rockers with fire extinguishers who are acting as a fire brigade. And one of them reports having been shot. Kyle immediately attempts to offer medical care, only to discover the person had been shot with a rubber bullet with no great effect. Kyle, Balch, and the punk rockers end up laughing and joking about the whole affair, with everyone being very friendly. A few moments later, with McGinnis recording beside him, they come across a group of 4 young black men, and the encounter is quite different. The group immediately displays hostility towards Kyle and McGinnis. Kyle, seeing this, does not engage or threaten in any way. Instead, he simply turns and walks away, calling out once again for anyone who might be in need of medical care. Not only was he not engaging in acts of violence, he was trying to avoid conflict. I hope the jury gets this. Kyle Rittenhouse was seeking to avoid conflict, render medical aid, and fled when he was attacked. ADA Binger noted that McGinnis had used the word menacing when he spoke in an interview after Kyle's shootings and repeatedly attempted to badger McGinnis into testifying that he meant this term to apply to Kyle himself, that McGinnis found Kyle to be personally menacing. First, this is hardly credible. Given that McGinnis chose to follow around the armed Kyle and Balch for quite some time, he didn't do the same, for example, with the actual menacing group of black men he had encountered. Second, McGinnis consistently responded to Binger's badgering suggestions by making clear that the word menacing was intended as a description of the circumstances generally, as in any potentially violent protest environment, not of Kyle personally. In other words, Binger wanted McGinnis to testify that he was using menacing to refer to Kyle as threatening. Instead, McGinnis made clear he was using menacing to mean simply the increased risk of being in an environment where guns were being carried around by people. Really, if you can't watch all of this, you really should. If you can't, I'll make these videos, but watching Richie McGinnis, and I was just like, dude, Richie wasn't having it. He wasn't there to defend Kyle. He wasn't there to attack Kyle. But it's clear that this guy telling the truth, self-defense. He says it was frankly all nonsense. If McGinnis had seen such a combination before, presumably Binger would have continued to narrow down the characteristics. We get it. At some point, McGinnis and Kyle become somewhat separated. McGinnis saw the now familiar Kyle run with the fire extinguisher and decided to see what was going on. As it happens, Kyle was running down Sheridan to put out a fire, reportedly occurring in a car source parking lot down the street. Isn't this amazing? Joshua Ziminski was carrying a Glock pistol, which he would shortly fire into the air, triggering subsequent events resulting in the death of Rosenbaum and Anthony Huber and maiming of Gage Grosskreutz. As Kyle reached the edge of car source, Rosenbaum concealed himself among 4 cars, then emerged behind Kyle and initiated his charge of Kyle. McGinnis was still running down Sheridan to catch up with Kyle, and so ended up behind Rosenbaum as events proceeded. Also roughly behind Kyle and Rosenbaum was Joshua Ziminski, who was on the sidewalk near the group of 4 cars that Rosenbaum had been hiding in. As Rosenbaum chased the isolated Kyle across the lot, Ziminski raised his pistol and fired a shot in the air. The fleeing Kyle, hearing the shot behind him, turned to look in that direction and saw Rosenbaum charging him, screaming "F you" at the top of his lungs. Much of this was confirmed both by the observational testimony of McGinnis as well as by various video recordings, including the FBI infrared video recording. The events are indisputable. McGinnis personally observed the charge of Rosenbaum on Kyle and described the attack in some great detail. Rosenbaum was in a hunched forward running position, as one would be running as fast as one could. Kyle was desperately fleeing towards the far side of the car source and was shouting friendly, friendly, friendly while doing so. These cries of friendly did not dissuade Rosenbaum. When Kyle turned slightly back towards Rosenbaum, even as Kyle continued to retreat, placing his rifle well within Rosenbaum's view, the sight of the rifle did not dissuade Rosenbaum's charge. Indeed, Rosenbaum would charge until he was close enough to lunge with outstretched arms for possession and control of Kyle's rifle. Kyle still holding his rifle at low ready, approximately at a 45-degree angle to the ground. McGinnis actually stood from his witness chair to demonstrate these aggressive attacking motions by Rosenbaum, and he did so at the request of ADA Binger. I'm sorry, my friends. The prosecution's throwing it. The prosecution wants Rittenhouse to walk. That's all. That's what I can see here. I can't go through all of the details. I think you know a lot of the details. So the main takeaway from all of this is that not just with McGinnis, but with Balch as well, the state has crippled their own trial. State witness Ryan Balch shows Rosenbaum as a violent lunatic, threatening to kill. Let me see if I can just pull this up. And here we go. Balch testified that Rosenbaum came right up to the pair, got right in my face, yelling and screaming, and murderously pledged, quote, "If I catch any of you guys alone tonight, I'm going to effing kill you." Worth recalling, I think, that this murderous threat from a hyper-aggressive and patently violent Rosenbaum came only a short time before Kyle, running for his life, would hear a gunshot behind him. A short while. So this guy says it shortly after he's chasing Rittenhouse, who's yelling friendly, who hears a gunshot. Self-defense. This is nuts. I can't believe the state brought these individuals in. Now, there's a lot of other things I really need to get to, and we don't have too much time. Check this out. A second juror was dismissed in the Rittenhouse trial. This is big. They say the latest juror dismissal leaves the panel with 18 total jurors, 8 men and 10 women. The pregnant juror appeared Friday in the jury box wearing a blue face mask. Judge Bruce Schroeder briefly questioned her before dismissing her. Schroeder later told the remaining jurors that panel member 27 was experiencing some mild discomfort. She's pregnant and requested to be dismissed, and I granted the request with the consent of attorney. So this one had nothing to do with joke or political opinions or anything like that. This was basically him just saying, okay, we're going to let one of the jurors take off, and the jury will be narrowed to 12 once deliberations begin, according to the judge. The jury was selected in a single day without the use of a preliminary questionnaire. So they still have more than enough jurors for this, but that is 2 jurors. The first juror who was removed made an off-color joke about Jacob Blake, which resulted in them saying, we don't want any potential for bias, so you can leave. Hey, there's one way to get removed from a jury trial. Apparently, the joke he made was mocking Jacob Blake, so probably would have voted in favor of Kyle Rittenhouse. So good. Let's have the judge do the right thing and treat this respectfully. I got to bring this up. This is important. Kyle Rittenhouse judge stops proceedings, fumes about media criticism. The establishment media knows they're losing. They know the story is a lie. They know Kyle Rittenhouse maybe shouldn't have been there. Maybe. But this was self-defense. The only thing they can do is blame the judge and say he's the one. Check this out from Chicago Tribune. The judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial went on a prolonged rant against media criticism of the case Wednesday, saying he has followed the law and any assertions otherwise could be detrimental to the community. Kenosha County Circuit Judge Bruce Schroeder began his unusual soliloquy by referencing a recent media report that called the case the most divisive trial in the country. Schroeder, the longest-serving circuit judge in Wisconsin, has frequently criticized media during the case, but he rarely acknowledges the trial's larger significance. Quote, anything that undermines public confidence in what happens here is very important. It is important for this town. It's important for this country to have people have confidence in the result of this trial, whatever it is. And I don't care what it is, but people have to be confident. Schroeder made the comments outside the jury's presence after the defense and prosecutors clashed over a video of the August 2020 unrest being played for the jury. As the two sides sparred, ADA Binger referenced Schroeder's pretrial ruling allowing Rittenhouse's team to present evidence suggesting the men Rittenhouse shot participated in looting, rioting, and arson that night. The mention seemed to upset Schroeder, who began talking about media coverage of that decision. The judge made national headlines regarding that ruling, and another that barred the men Rittenhouse shot from being called victims. The judge received dozens of angry emails about the decisions, according to court records. There are people in the media on reputable sites that are saying things that are totally bizarre, Schroeder said. The judge specifically referenced a CNN report in which 2 legal analysts questioned the ruling, including one who described it as incomprehensible. According to CNN.com legal analyst Ariva Martin made the comment. Legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin, whom Schroeder specifically singled out, called it a really unnecessary and unfortunate beginning to this really important case. That's our rule, Schroeder said. It's the law. The judge also criticized media accounts that correctly referenced that he had been reversed in a murder trial that resulted in a life sentence. Schroeder said he was reversed in the 2008 case, followed the appellate court's instruction on retrial, and then was vindicated when he was reversed again. I was right, he said. I got to tell you, I think the judge is doing a really great job. The judge has shown to be impartial, that not everything will go the defense's way. And the ruling on the victim, on saying the word victim, is literally, it makes sense. Here, the judge said you can't refer to the men who lost their lives as victims. Why? At heart in this trial is whether or not they are victims. Kyle Rittenhouse, was he defending himself from aggressors who were breaking the law, or did he attack people and be the aggressor? If it was self-defense, these men were not victims. So if the prosecutor comes out and calls these people victims the entire time, they are basically asserting Kyle Rittenhouse was guilty from the get-go. The judge says you can't do that. Now, why can you call them looters, rhiners, and arsonists? Because that is what they are seen doing. We need to prove to the jury, the defense does, that these people were breaking the law. We've seen it on video, and the judge says if they're on video and that's the determination that they're rioting and looting, so be it. And then the jury can decide whether or not Rittenhouse was defending himself from them. The left wants it to be that this kid is a far-right, evil guy who brought a gun across state lines to hunt down innocent protesters. Not true. Not true in the slightest. Now, whether or not he was justified in self-defense will be up to the jury. Whether or not he was going there to cause harm is not in dispute. There's video evidence. There are witnesses. There are facts. He didn't bring guns across state lines. He worked in Kenosha. He lived about 20 miles away. These are the things the left has been lying about. Binger tried to steer the conversation back to the issue being debated, telling the judge he doesn't pay attention to Toobin or any other media commentary on the case. It is of no concern to me, Binger said. The judge then took a break and stepped off the bench. There was no mention of the media when he returned. They're going to say Rittenhouse, and we get the details on Rittenhouse and all the rest. So we are now in day 4. It's currently ongoing, and there's already some interesting commentary when it comes to one witness. Let me try and get this woman's name. Okay, so I don't think we have it updates periodically. But there was one witness they brought in, and Andrew Branca said he has no idea why they brought this one witness on to testify, because she didn't have any knowledge of the case, and it seemed to be a waste of the court's time. I got to tell you, man, I think based on what we're hearing today, what we heard yesterday, right now it's going to walk this one out. This is from just about an hour ago. Hour before recording this video. Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Witness says man shot was acting belligerently. Jason Lukowski and Joseph Rosenbaum asked very bluntly to shoot him. What are we doing here? The state has no case. The state has been trying to bring people on, and they can't do anything to undermine Rittenhouse. They tried. So look, I said maybe they're throwing it, but look. In the testimony of McGinnis, the prosecutor's trying to get Richie to say he was falling, right? He plays a clip from Tucker Carlson where Richie was like, so then as he's so then he's falling forward and then Rittenhouse is shooting. And so he's like, see, you said he was falling. And Richie's like, well, let me clarify. He was lunging forward when the shot started. Yeah, but you said he was falling. And Richie's like, but I'm clarifying. It was amazing how the prosecutor was desperately trying to get Richie to say, he was falling, right? He was falling. Is the best you can do, ADA Binger, is pull up a Tucker Carlson clip of the witness and then try and claim the witness's testimony is based on being not being under oath and going on TV. The dude, Richie, is sitting in front of you right now under oath. So what he says is what happened. Oh, it's amazing. I think we're going to see Kyle Rittenhouse walk. I think we are going to see Kyle Rittenhouse walk. Maybe some minor charges. Maybe the riots end up breaking out after all. It's cold out, though, so we will see. The state has flubbed this beyond all recognition. Now, it's still relatively early, I suppose, but when the state's own witnesses are basically saying two very big things. One, that this guy was lunging at Rittenhouse. Two, that this guy threatened to kill Kyle Rittenhouse. What is this? What is going on? Crazy, huh? We'll see. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up Monday, I guess, because no IRL tonight. You can check out youtube.com/castcastle for the vlog, which has been slow going because everyone has been sick, but we're all basically negative now. There's, one or two people who aren't here, who don't work here, who are sick, but I think we're all basically good and ready to go. So thanks for the support, everybody. Thanks for checking out this video. Share it with your friends, and I'll see y'all next time.